Well, shalom, everyone. Welcome to this week's Unashamed. My name is Daniel Clayton, coming to you from a place you probably haven't heard of, Oklahoma. No, that's not the actual name of the town, but around these parts, I probably wouldn't be surprised if there was actually a town called that. So, this is probably the point where I would usually say I'm here with my great friend Chris Knight. However, he is not here tonight. Insert sad face. He is out in California at Messiah West Coast, at another youth camp that's going on out there. And he told me to tell everyone that he wishes he could be here tonight, but they just it was a last minute switch of the schedule, so he couldn't be here tonight. But he said it's going really well out there, and he requests that people would be praying for the youth out there. Another thing that's coming up is Camp Yeshua, which I will be a part of. He will also be there. This will be my 8th year attending. It is amazing to think that I've been going there for that long. It's humbling to think that. And Camp Yeshua has been absolutely incredible in my life. It is not an exaggeration to say it has been life-changing on many different occasions. I remember when I first started going, I was just this shy little kid that didn't really know God's place in his own life, and I can just look back and see myself kind of come out of my shell and start to move into the life that I'm in now. And so Camp Yeshua is very close to my heart, and the young people and youth are my passion because I don't know, I just see a lot going on these days with youth. There's a lot of pressures. I know that in the world that we live in, the youth of the world are not setting the best example in any way, shape, or form. But with everything that's going on, even in Messianic circles or whatever, there's a lot of pressures, and it can really weigh down. And I don't want to make light of that because it really can affect us. I mean, we are, the youth being, we are this generation. We are to continue to carry on what is going on right now, the Torah, the Messiah, and some of the things that affect us in these negative ways. And I want the adults out there to really take note of this because I'm a part of this, and I know firsthand the kind of pressures it can bring on. The amount of end times theologies and conspiracy theories that are brought out is to the right of ridiculous. It is getting absolutely absurd. Cole Davis from the Lion's Path on Hebrew Nation just did a video on his YouTube channel called "Why I Don't Listen to Conspiracy Theories Anymore," and I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. I've heard it's excellent, but in my definition, a conspiracy is something. It is a plan of the enemy, of the adversary, to distract the righteous from what is truly important. And there's so much of it going on, and the youth see it. Don't think that you're hiding it from them. They see what's going on. They see the negativity that it brings, and what is going on is it is robbing the youth of hope. It is robbing them of hope for any kind of future. And one of my dad's sayings that is absolutely one of my favorites is, in the midst of storing food, don't forget to cook breakfast. With all that's going on, yeah, be aware of it, but plan for tomorrow. And tomorrow, these youth are still going to be here, and they need to have hope for some kind of, they need to have some hope for something. So next time, before you post a conspiracy theory to your Facebook, how about saying instead, Messiah is coming. He is coming soon. That is something to be hopeful for. Another thing, as far as, since we're on the topic of youth, that I know I've experienced with people saying this to me, is there's so much pressure to go to college. And, it's just kind of been the status quo for so long that it's hard to come out of that shell. I have not gone to college. I'm not really planning to go to college. I'm not ruling it out. But for me, that's not what I'm supposed to do right now. I've sought the Father on it, and that's just where I'm at. But there's certain groups of people that I can be around that they start to talk to me about that, and I start to feel like I'm looked down upon because I'm not going to college, not planning for a career, quote unquote. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. If a young person has sought the Father, and the Father has told him to go to college, awesome. That is wonderful. He will provide a way for the finances. He will provide a way for just everything that is involved. If they're not supposed to go to college, then support them in that. Do not put unneeded pressures where they are not needed. And I guess unneeded pressures aren't needed anywhere. So yeah. With that, Camp Yeshua is coming, and Messiah West Coast is going on now. I think there's a couple other youth camps somewhere along this way. So I would just like to personally ask everyone listening to please keep these young people in your prayers. The potential that is at these camps is incredible. With this many people coming together, seeking the Almighty and seeking His heart and seeking to worship Him, just the ingredients are there for major things to happen. And I always love, getting on the other side of them and just seeing and hearing the testimonies. So please be praying for all these people. And so it's just me tonight. If you want to call in at any point, this is a live show. The number is 503-967-3001. Sorry, I had to look at it for a second. It's been a while since I've given it out. So as many of you probably know, if you listen much, Chris and I were just at Revive last weekend, and it was an excellent time. And we would have talked about it last week, but I don't know if Chris and I had the brain cell capacity to do so. It's a lot of people, and it can be very draining, that many people. So we were pretty zonked out. So we were very thankful for good brother Hanoch helping us out there. And if you haven't listened to that show, I would highly encourage you to do so. It's Hanoch has some amazing things to say. He's an amazing guy. So encourage you to go look that up. So getting into this, Revive. I kind of want to talk about real quick just what is the purpose of these kind of things, these events, of Revive, of Camp Yeshua, of any other youth camp, of Sukkot, Shavuot, of your weekly Shabbat gatherings, any kind of gathering or conference or coming together. What is the purpose of them? We're human and we forget things really fast. Even if you have a really good memory, that somehow the spiritual things, when it comes to the spiritual things, we just forget really fast. So, it's just a fact of life, it doesn't mean you're a bad person because you forget stuff. It's just part of being human. So these times, like Revive and like Sukkot, they are times to refocus, to come back to just to a place of reevaluate. Not necessarily reevaluating, but just getting back to the basics and building back up. We can get flooded in with the smaller things that we can forget. I'm not saying we do every time, but we can forget about the big things. Walking together in one, as one, and so we should. These times are to rekindle the fire. And of course, we should do everything we can, everything in our power, and asking the Father for His power, to make sure that the fire does not go out, it does not get doused. But it's just another fact of life. It's going to happen. The winds are going to blow, and the water's going to come, and that fire is going to dwindle down to just where it's coals. But that's the beautiful thing about these kind of things, about Sukkot, is it's a time of fellowship and where the Father says, where two or more are gathered, there I shall be with them as well. And that's the purpose of these things. It is not to be a spiritual high, however. I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. because in the very term spiritual high, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to fall. And I make the comparison of spiritual high to a milepost. Spiritual high is just that. You go somewhere and you get lots of positive things inflowing, and you're getting built up and built up. But those things are going to wear off, and the higher you are, the farther you fall. Excuse me. A milepost, however, it's something you don't have to go back from. It is a marker on your journey of moving forward. You don't have to move backward or fall anywhere from a milepost. You might stumble a little bit and have to regain your balance, but you don't have to move much farther backwards. And on my website, joyoftheking.org, is a writing called Spiritual Highs versus Mileposts, and I make the analogy of hiking. It's kind of funny because I haven't actually done much hiking. I intend to, but on a hiking trail, a lot of it is redundant. Just the well-worn paths of the people who have walked it many times. Trees on either side. Little couple critters, little squirrels, and it just goes on like that for a while. But you come to these places that make each hiking trail famous. Maybe it opens up and there's a big waterfall or just a big canyon. Maybe it's sunset and that sun is starting to hit those rocks and it's just lighting them on fire. And it's amazing. It's incredible. You don't want to leave. But the longer you stay there, the harder it is to leave. But you don't have to go backwards. You can keep that sight in your mind and let it propel you forward. And let the memory of it and let the memory of it become a desire to see it again. Because the more you move forward, the better it gets. Every single time. It's also important to know, though, that we cannot rely on those memories for too long. We cannot rely on yesterday's fires to keep our fires today going. Because you think about it in just a practical aspect, yesterday's fires is today's ashes. And the longer you try to hold on to yesterday's fire, the more the ashes are going to choke out today's fire. And, obviously we don't want that. So, you get to a place like Revive, like Sukkot, and you receive fire. Your fire is rekindled, and you have this wonderful place. Hopefully you received that fire. If you didn't, I would be hard pressed to say anything, but it may be, a lot of the time, it's your fault. Just to be very blunt, you get out of something what you put into it. And if you don't put enough into it, then you're not going to get enough out of it. That's just how it works. But don't let that discourage you. You can still look back on it and take something away from it. There's at no point is anything hopeless. And honestly, every single day is another opportunity to have that fire ignited again. But I would hope that if you were at Revive, that you received something, spiritually speaking, for the most part. But you probably received some physical stuff too. Maybe you got a new T-shirt, maybe you bought a shofar, maybe you got a CD from someone you had never heard of before, and you come home with your CD or your shofar, and you put them on the shelf, and you come home with your shirt and you put it in the closet, and they're nice things to look at, but they're not much use if you don't do anything with them. A CD on a shelf is not going to connect your heart to the Father in the worship that is on the CD. A shofar is not a wall decoration. A shofar is to be used powerfully. A shofar is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I would know. I make them. And, as far as shirts go, But all that to say, that's what you may have done with your physical things that you brought back. What are you doing with the spiritual, with the emotional things you brought back? If you received something positive, which I pray you did, what are you doing with it? Did it go on the shelf like your CD or your shofar? Did you just kind of throw it up in the closet like you did with your shirt? You open up the closet and you're looking through your shirts, trying to decide what to wear, and you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a really nice memory. That shirt from Revive, that was a good time. Is that all it is though? We can too easily do that with the spiritual things that we receive. Are we just looking at it every day? Have we just set it on the shelf somewhere to where we see it, but we don't do anything with it? Are we acting on it? Are we applying it to our lives? Are we seeking to how we can implement it into our day-to-day walk to make ourselves a better people? Did we hear it? Did we just hear the messages that were brought forth, or did we shema? And of course, a lot of people know this, but hearing is just it's just an English word of what goes in your ears. Shema, however, is to hear, and to hear intelligently, and to act upon what you have just heard. In Hebraic thinking, if you hear something and you don't do anything about it, then you didn't really hear it. You just kind of were there you were just kind of witness to it. But if you don't do anything with it, then you can't really say you've heard it. When my dad started doing all his preparation teaching, it was so funny being with him. He would get up there and he would ask, so does anyone in the room have a lighter, or let's say a knife? And so a bunch of people would raise their hands. They wouldn't raise the room. And he would then say, how many of you have your knife on you? And several hands would go down. And he said, if you don't have it, you don't have it. And the same can be applied. If you didn't act on it, you really didn't truly hear it. Let's see, what else? You may have met some new people. It's kind of hard not to meet new people when there are 1,400 people within the same hotel, a lot of them wearing tzitzits and head coverings and such. So it's pretty likely that you met someone. Are you just kind of saying to yourself, oh, yeah, those people they were really nice. I'm really glad I got to meet them. Or have you taken steps to pursue that relationship? I saw a quote earlier today or sometime this week that said, relationships don't die a natural death, but they are killed with greed and hate and bitterness. And I agree with the second part of that, but I think that relationships can also die a natural death, so to speak. If it is not taken care of, then yes, they will die. The relationships, you can't just, even if you've had a friend for, years, it can come to a place where if you do not put in the effort, if you do not put in the maintenance and, check up on them every once in a while, it can die. That relationship can fade into nothing. I pray that is not often the case, but it is very possible. So, everyone you meet, especially at a place like this, it has the potential to be they have the potential to be great brothers and sisters, to be people you will know and talk to for the rest of your lives. But that's not going to happen if you don't put in the effort. And, know that I'm talking to myself here too. Everything that I'm saying, I have already said to myself and I've already asked myself, and I continue to ask myself and say to myself, because I want to apply these things. I don't want to tell, you, the listeners, anything that I haven't told myself and examined myself in. So, we can't do anything without the help of people. Chris and I talked about this one week. I think we're probably talking about community. Moving a fridge, it gets pretty interesting by yourself. You can kind of shimmy it around a little bit, but as far as getting it up on a truck, if you're trying to do that by yourself, please get it on video. I'm sure it'll be quite comical, but it's hard by yourself. You need people. So please, the people that you met over this last weekend, put in the effort to to build upon those relationships. Um, there was really a lot of good teaching there, and I know I was blessed by the teachings I went to. There was so much going on that I feel like I missed a lot, but what I did hear was good, and I was blessed by it. And I have to ask myself, and in turn ask all of you, what am I doing? What are you doing to bless the people that have blessed us? It's a hard question. It's a very convicting question, at least it should be. Yeah, going back to the relationships, a relationship does not work if it is two people just taking, because eventually both people are going to be left with nothing. Relationships are give and take, and it is the same thing with these speakers, with these shepherds, these pastors, preachers, whatever you want to call them. If they've blessed you, then you should bless them back. Simple as that. Whether it be monetarily or an encouraging word. I've done some speaking in a few places. I do this radio show, and I know I value it, and I am so appreciative when people come up to me and said that they appreciated something I said, or that they appreciate the effort I put into things. And I try to at least do that. When I hear a good message, I try to go to that person and say, that was really good. I was encouraged by that. I was challenged by that. Thank you for obeying the Father and for allowing him to flow through you. If nothing else, then blessing them just with some words of affirmation. Are we only taking from these people, or are we giving something back? I hope the answer is either that we are giving back, or we are going to give back. You'll never regret blessing someone. You'll never hand a speaker or someone, or anyone you're trying to bless. You'll never hand them $20 and then 2 weeks later say to yourself, "Oh man, I really wish I'd saved that $20 for a cheeseburger." If you do say that, then you just have some problems. I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. You're not going to regret being a blessing to someone. And the thing is, if you bless a speaker, if you bless a musician, worship leader, and they go somewhere else, and they are a blessing to others, then your contribution to them helps them get to this other place. You now have a part in the whole big picture of the whole blessings. I hope that makes sense. It's late here, and it's been very hot and humid lately, so I'm hoping I'm making at least a little bit of sense. But just be a blessing. Seek to be a blessing to other people. Seek how you can be a blessing. It doesn't have to be money. It can be words. It can be just an act of some sort. And we're coming up on the break here, and get a little bit more into some of the things that were said. Yeah, I'm actually going to start to get into what was said at Revive. You guys are probably like, man, is he ever going to actually talk about it? So, once we get back from that, we'll start to talk about that. And again, the number to call in is 503-967-3001 if you want to call and talk to me at all. On the other side of this, we're going to talk about Israel. A couple of the breakout sessions we're dealing with that, and I look forward to it. I'm always excited to talk about Israel. So see you on the other side.
Rescued us, and we've not ashamed.
Welcome back. We're here once again, and we're here with, excuse me, you're here with Daniel Clayton, myself, and as I said earlier, Chris is out. He's in California at Messiah West Coast Youth Camp. Um, can't say I'm not at least a little bit jealous, but I'll pray for him instead. So we're talking. I'm talking about Revive, and just in the first half, we're talking about the purpose of conferences like this, of things like Sukkot, what it's supposed to do, what it should be doing in our lives. It should not just be a thing that we go to and yeah, it was a pretty good time, but no, it should be much more than that. It should be we should take as much as we can away from it. And uh, I stated right before we left that we were going to be talking about Israel. And I'm pretty big proponent that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what day it is, what conference you're at, what the theme of the conference is, I think Israel is a pretty good thing to talk about. One reason being is because that's where we're going. Simple as that. And, you probably know America's not doing too good right now. And, to say the least, right? I'm sure I'll try not to turn this into any kind of political thing, but I'm sure everyone's very familiar with what's going on with the rainbow flags. I just kind of want to say one thing about that real quick, about specifically the use of the rainbow flags in the homosexual agenda that's going on. I say let them use it. I say let them use the rainbow flag. Bear with me for a second, but the rainbow, of course, is a symbol of God's covenant with Noah and with the rest of us. And if the rainbow is a symbol of God's covenant, and these people are using the rainbow as their own little symbol, then that rainbow, the very thing that they're using, is a witness against them. The very flag that they're flying as their own symbol is a witness against them. And I believe it should be a statement that we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to fix that. I know this may be a surprise, but we don't have to fix everything on the planet. We don't have to give our opinion about everything on the planet. Some things, in fact, most things, if not all things, God's going to take care of it. His own symbol of his covenant. I just am crazy enough to believe that he's got that one handled. I don't have to get mad about it because we live in a fallen world anyway. Why would I get mad about sin in a sinful world? No, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm going to do everything I can living in this sinful world to make sure that my life is as pure as it can be. And when I do that, I'm going to be able to influence the people around me, who will be able to influence the people around them. I am realistic enough to admit that I'm not going to be able to make them stop using the rainbow flag or, get America to, come back. No, that, as we would say in the South, that dog ain't going to hunt. And, as Jewish people might say, we don't pray for things that aren't going to happen. And, that's just where we are. So, don't get mad about all these things. Just do what you can for your life. That's what you need to do, is what you're supposed to do in your life. And, like I said, that rainbow flag, what they're using, it's against them. But Israel, that's what we were originally talking about. There was a couple sessions at Revive about Israel, one of them being from two people named Dennis and Tirza D. They are running a organization called Hands to the Land. It is a program that you can go over and volunteer for, that you'll be doing agricultural work and just work in the community over there with, I believe, the German Jews, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's the community that they're working with. And I've heard nothing but great things about Hands to the Land and about the work that's being done over there. Dennis and Tirza are great people. You can see their heart as they talk. So I would I would encourage you to look at that if you're interested in going over and working. That's a great way to do it. Yeah, I met a guy earlier today actually at work. They were where I work. They have some berry fields, and this guy was coming over to pick. He was from Ethiopia, and I was telling them just a couple things, and the Messianic thing came up, and he said, "Yeah, we got a lot of people where I'm from that are we do the Jewish culture. We do." The Feast of Tabernacles, and I said, "Oh, that's really cool. Where do you guys usually do the tabernacles?" This was before I knew he was Ethiopian, and he said, "In Ethiopia." And I said, "That's really really cool. Is there a big group out there?" And he said, "Yeah, there's a lot of people out there." And the coolest thing he said, though, to me, the coolest thing is he said a lot of the people in Ethiopia are starting. A lot of the Jewish people in Ethiopia are moving to Israel, and that was so amazing for me to hear. Um, that the call is being felt. The land is calling its people back home. We may not be able to go home yet, being Messianic, but the day is coming. And it's important to note when I talk about Israel in that kind of way, I'm usually not talking about political Israel. I am talking about the physical land, the biblical land of Israel, and about spiritual Israel. I, I'll admit when I'm wrong when it comes to pass, but I personally believe that nothing about the redemption of the world, nothing about the redemption of Israel, is going to happen on a political level. If you disagree with that, that's okay. I'm not gonna be mad at you. We can still walk together. But me personally, I doubt that any politician is going to be able to stand up there with Yeshua and say, "Yeah, me and Yeshua, we got this, we did this." Um, just don't think it's going to happen like that. So Israel, yeah, it's that's important. That's a thing to refocus on, daily, I would say. Another great session that happened was called Kingdom Leadership, and I want to say that everybody, I would be comfortable with saying everybody has, in some way, a way that they can be a leader. For a man, of course, it's more obvious there. Being the husband and the father, you are to lead your wife and you're to lead your children. With the wife, you are also to lead your children. As the husband may be away at work or however that works, whatever that looks like for you. Children may take a little while for that to come to pass, but there's the oldest to the youngest, and then as they grow, go to work, however it looks, or just in communities, there's opportunities for them to be leaders, and especially with us, knowing what we know, doing what we're doing with Torah, and following Messiah, we are called to be leaders in some way or another. People. It's easy to think that ministry is just the people that travel around and speak. That's not what ministry is. That is a part of ministry, but ministry, everybody has their own kind of ministry. You go to work, that can be your ministry. That is where you can be fulfilling your part of ministry. Talking to your coworkers about why you do things a certain way, why you don't do things a certain way. Um, there is areas of your life, no matter who you are, that you are called to be a leader, and it's important to know that, and to know that what you're called to, and to ask the Father that He would help you become that. So the main ideas of this session was leadership and submission. And at first glance, those things seem a little bit contradictory, maybe, but absolutely not. They go hand in hand. They need to go hand in hand. For a leader, or a shepherd in this case, who does not submit to the Father, to the Almighty, is a wolf. I'll say that again. A shepherd who does not submit to the Almighty is a wolf. A human leader that does not acknowledge that he is not actually, the leader, not the kind of person you'd want to be following. For this wolf personality right there. Their intentions are only to harm. Their intentions are only to destroy, to cause chaos within, wherever they have attained the position of leadership. They have gotten to that place from selfish gain, and we need to be discerning. We need to be very open-eyed about that. And as far as submission goes in all of us, we need to restore our ability to submit to leadership. There have been so many things that have happened just through all the fiascos of the past that have made it hard in our minds to submit. I'm very blessed in that I did not have to go through a lot of the of coming out of the church kind of stuff. I'm thankful that I did not have to experience a lot of that. Experience the bitterness of feeling like I was lied to. But if that's where you're at, I would say, even though I know I'm on the outside, I would say let it go. It's just you don't need to be carrying it around anymore, and learn how to submit again. In your home, if you're attending a congregation, in your home, you are the leader in some way. Let's say just that I'm talking about or to a man. In your home, you're the leader. When you go to a congregation, you are not the leader there. You can go home from there and talk to your family about something that you may have disagreed with the pastor or the shepherd on, but you are not to go into that place and rebel against that leadership. There is a place there that you are to submit. Respect their position, respect their calling, what they are called to, and respect your own calling. The more you respect and are content with your own calling, the more you're going to be able to respect their calling and their position. If you're going in there and you're disagreeing with things, that's okay. But if you are taking that disagreement and talking outside of in the building, you're talking to people in the building about what you disagree with. It just doesn't need to happen. A lot of people use the thing of, oh, well, it's good to have a good debate. Yes, a good debate is good. But the problem is, people don't know how to debate. They only know how to argue these days. And I hope that changes soon. But right now, I'm not really seeing a clear line between the two. And what is it that causes a lack of submission? I firmly believe that it is a lack of fearing Yahweh. I believe that so many people have, and myself at one point included, have gotten to the place of just not fearing Him anymore. We've grown comfortable in our American lives. We've grown independent, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And if we're independent and we got things handled and we got a good job, then why would we need to fear anything? Why would we need to fear the Almighty if we got everything handled? Well, one, that's a ridiculous statement. We don't have everything handled. We just may think at some points that we do. But I submit to you that if you are attacking other people in their beliefs, if you are pointing out their flaws on a regular basis, if you're constantly criticizing, then I would say you do not fear the Father. Because look at it in a family setting. You think of children. A child goes to another person's house, or even in your own family. Think about when you were young. If you have siblings, if you fear your earthly father, you fear your dad, then you're probably a little less likely to be, harassing your siblings. Your younger siblings maybe, because that if you do, then when dad gets home, you're gonna get it. So if you don't have that fear, then you have no problem, pointing out those things or harassing your siblings. The more we fear the Father, the more we will respect his children. Going back to the whole rainbow flag thing, we don't have to get mad. We don't have to be the ones that correct. My dad has done a lot of teaching recently on order, and it's comforting to me to know that I don't have to fix all the problems. I don't have to be throwing rocks at other people's walk. The Father will correct the children that need to be corrected. That's not my job. I may be called to encourage or to, at some point, balance the statement out. There are going to be points when the Father is calling you to step into the prophet shoes, to speak that word of conviction into someone's life. But for the most part, if that is done outside of his will, then it is going to bring only hurt and damage into relationships, into people's lives. And yeah, so that was the main idea of that whole session, and it's really encouraging to me that this kind of message of leadership, of submission, of relationship, that it is going out on multiple fronts, multiple teachers. I'm hearing this from a lot of places. It's really encouraging to me, and I pray that it is not going in one ear and out the other. I pray that it is being received, and I pray that I'm receiving it, as much as I can. There was a man named Mr. John Conrad there. I had personally never heard of him before, but he did a message called "If Your Presence Does Not Go With Us." Absolutely excellent message, and I'll go into some of the things he said there. One of the most impacting things he said, I think, was our relationship with the Father never changes. He is always our Father, and we are always his child. Whether everyone, and yeah, if we have come into his family, then we are always his child. It's not, you can't disown an adopted child. That's law. And so it's not our relationship that changes, when things start to, go kind of crazy. It's our fellowship with him that changes. He is constant. He has always been constant. He always will be constant. He is always there. I was talking to a really good friend of mine recently who was going through a lot of trouble with owning a business and with a co-owner of the business. Just lots of lying going on and lots of just dirty stuff that no one should have to deal with. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said, I really got to a place that I was just bitter, and I was angry all the time, and it was just consuming me. But he said, he's a Christian guy, he said, but I was at church the other day, finally got to go, had the day off from work. And he said, I went down to the altar, during the altar call, and, he was telling me he just lost it. And he gave it all up. He gave all the anger, all the bitterness over, and he forgave. He finally was able to ask the Father to help him to forgive and to let go of that stuff. And after years of holding on to that anger, that bitterness, the Father took him back like that. Instantly, this man was on his face, and he was weeping before the Father instantly. After all that time, the Father took him back that fast. He is constant. It is our decision to be distanced from him. It's easy to think that when we sin, that he hides from us. That he's upset with us, angry with us, disappointed in us. And at some points, yes, he may be disappointed because I would say saddened. He's saddened that we sin, that we come short. But I think it says in Romans, all have fallen short of the glory of God. It is only because of him that anything like this that forgiveness is possible. But he doesn't hide from us when we sin. It is us who hide from him. We feel the shame, and we feel humiliated, or at least I do when I sin. And it is easy to think that he's hiding because I've failed him. But no, it is the farthest thing from that. He is just ready to help me get back on my feet. He's ready to accept me and help me get going again. The title of the message, like I said, was "If Your Presence Does Not Go With Us." Moses, it wasn't really a thing that. It was Moses who said, "If your presence does not go with us." It wasn't the Father that said to Moses, "If my presence doesn't go with you, then don't go." It was Moses that said, "If your presence doesn't go with us, then we don't want to go." So there's a part of that is our choice. And we should ask ourselves, I should ask myself, am I okay with going on without his presence? And the answer should be a resounding, absolutely not. At no point in my life should I be satisfied or okay with living a life, leading a life, walking out a life that is void of his presence in any area of my life. Our so-called independence, as I was hinting at earlier, our independence is a stench to him. What is our independence? What can we do by ourselves? Please, I would ask someone to tell me, what can we do by ourselves without him? The answer is nothing. He created us, so everything that we do is because he is allowing it, because of the free will he has given us. He doesn't want us to be independent. He doesn't want us to do all this without him. He says in Matthew 11:28 to cast our burdens on him. We don't have to bear those burdens. He gladly takes them for us, which I do not understand how he is so willing to do that, but I thank him for it. He knows we're going to mess up. But going back to the family, a parent will tell their kid, don't touch the stove. But I think we all know eventually that kid's going to touch the stove. But that doesn't mean that the parent's just angry. They may be kind of angry at the beginning. I told you not to touch the stove. Why'd you do it? But they're always ready, to bandage the wound to help them out. If we touch the stove over and over again, there comes a point when the Father's going to say, you need to bear the consequences of this one. You've messed that up before, and told you not to do it in the first place. So, there is consequences to your actions. But we need his presence. All the things I was talking about in the first half of what we come back with from conferences and Sukkot, the teachings, the encouragement, the fellowship that we come back with. None of it means anything without his presence. If we are pursuing friendships with people, but they are void of his presence, then they're just acquaintances. It's not gonna be what it could without him. So my encouragement, my prayer, may we be like Moses. May we be people that are adamant that, Father, if your presence does not go with us, we don't want to go. With that, Shavua Tov, have a great week. I'm not sure about next week. Chris and I will be at Camp Yeshua, so stay tuned to see if that's going to be a live show or a recording. Yet to be determined. Shalom.